Right now, as you listen to this, there is a good chance you are sitting inside a dry, temperature-controlled room. If you look out the window and see rain starting to fall, your immediate reaction is probably a quiet sense of relief. You might think about canceling your plans, wrapping yourself in a blanket, or opening an app to have hot food delivered right to your door. For us, a rainy day is a minor inconvenience, an excuse to slow down and do absolutely nothing. But for 99% of human history, there was no glass window. There was no waterproof nylon, no central heating, and no food on demand. Imagine you are standing at the mouth of a shallow rock shelter 50,000 years ago. The sky above is a heavy, bruising gray, and a relentless, freezing downpour has just set in. You look out over the ancient landscape, and you realize something terrifying. It isn't going to stop. Not tonight, not tomorrow, and likely not for the next 7 days. In the Paleolithic world, a week of endless rain was not a cozy backdrop for relaxation. It was a slow-motion, life-or-death crisis. To understand how you would survive the next 7 days, you have to forget everything you know about the modern world and look at the brutal, hidden physics of the Stone Age. The first and most immediate threat you face is something physicists call conductive heat loss. When your skin or your clothing gets wet, your body begins to transfer its core heat to the surrounding moisture at an alarming rate. In fact, wet skin loses heat roughly 5 times faster than dry skin. If you are caught out in a 40-degree rainstorm, your core temperature will plummet in a matter of hours, bringing on hypothermia and death long before you ever have to worry about finding food. To protect yourself, you might think of your heavy animal hides, the thick mammoth or deer pelts you spent weeks preparing. But raw hides are not modern raincoats. Once they get thoroughly soaked, they undergo a disastrous transformation. They absorb water like a sponge, becoming incredibly heavy, stiff, and freezing cold. Instead of insulating you, your own clothes become a wet, heavy weight, actively dragging your body temperature down to the freezing point of the earth. So, you must find shelter. You and your small band of 15 people retreat into the dark opening of a nearby limestone cave. But a cave in the wet season is a treacherous place. It is damp, drafty, and pitch black. More importantly, you cannot simply walk in and build a fire wherever you want. For decades, popular culture has painted our ancestors as filthy, chaotic cavemen who stumbled into the dark and lived in squalor. But modern archaeology has revealed a very different story. Excavations at sites like Teixeir's Cave in Spain and Riparo Bombrini in Italy show that ancient humans and Neanderthals were highly organized spatial engineers. They didn't just throw their things anywhere, they utilized a highly sophisticated, consistent internal floor plan that they maintained for thousands of years. As you step into the cave, your band immediately organizes the space into distinct zones. There is a specific area near the back for sleeping, a separate zone for butchering meat, a workshop area for knapping stone tools, and a precisely calculated hearth zone for the fire. The placement of this fire is a matter of survival. If you build your fire too close to the cave entrance, the swirling wind and driving rain will blow it out. But if you push the fire too deep into a sealed cave chamber, you run into a lethal problem. In a closed space, a wood fire produces dense clouds of carbon monoxide, nitrogen dioxide, and fine soot. In less than 20 minutes, the toxic buildup can easily blind and suffocate your entire family. To survive, your ancestors had to understand the complex aerodynamics of caves. They learned to identify the natural, sweet spots, where the cave's ceiling contours and cold drafts created a natural chimney effect. By placing the hearth in this exact spot, the rising heat would draw fresh air in from the entrance, pushing the toxic smoke along the ceiling and out of the cave, leaving a pocket of clean, warm air right where the tribe sat. Furthermore, you can't just burn any wood you find. Wet wood produces suffocating plumes of black smoke. Your band has spent weeks preparing for this, gathering dry, low-smoke woods like ash or pine, and storing them deep in the dry recesses of the cave. In times of extreme desperation, when the wood runs out, you resort to a strange but highly effective Paleolithic trick. You burn dry animal bones. Bones are packed with natural fats and marrow. Once ignited, they burn slow, hot, and with almost no smoke at all, keeping the cave warm without filling it with deadly fumes. With the fire established, you now face the challenge of the cave floor. You cannot sleep directly on the cold limestone. The stone will sap the heat from your body overnight. At Sibutu Cave in South Africa, archaeologists discovered how our ancestors solved this problem 77,000 years ago. They were master bedmakers. They gathered broad sedge grasses from nearby riverbanks to weave thick, springy mattresses. But their beds were not just comfortable, they were biochemically engineered. The grass layers were meticulously topped with the leaves of the wild quince tree. Modern chemical analysis of these leaves reveals they contain natural compounds that act as highly effective insect repellents. In the damp, high-humidity environment of a rainy cave, mosquitoes, fleas, and lice would normally multiply rapidly. By lining their beds with these medicinal leaves, your ancestors created a chemical shield that kept the biting pests away while they slept. But even the best grass bed eventually becomes damp, moldy, and infested with parasites over a week of confinement. When this happened, your ancestors didn't just throw the bedding away. They used fire to intentionally burn their old beds right there on the cave floor. This controlled indoor burning sterilized the living space, killing off the bacteria, mold, and insect eggs nested in the dirt, before they laid down a fresh, clean, aromatic layer of new grass. As the days crawl by, the rain outside turns into a deafening, continuous roar. This constant noise triggers a terrifying psychological phenomenon known as sensory collapse. In the ancient world, your ears and nose are your early warning systems. But a heavy rainstorm masks the sound of snapping twigs and rustling leaves, while the wet ground washes away the scent trails of predators. If a pack of giant cave hyenas or a saber-toothed cat is stalking your cave mouth, you will not hear or smell them until they are already inside your living space. This sensory collapse forces your band into a state of hypervigilance. The fire is no longer just for warmth, it is your only shield against the terrors hiding in the wet darkness. But keeping that fire lit when the humidity is at 100% and the wood is damp is an exhausting, around-the-clock chore. But perhaps the most profound challenge of a week-long rainstorm wasn't the physical danger, it was the psychological toll. You are trapped in a tight, dark, smoky space with 15 other people for 7 straight days. There is no personal space, no privacy, and absolutely no escape. In a small, highly dependent group, interpersonal tension can be just as deadly as a predator. A single unresolved argument could fracture the band and doom everyone. Anthropologists like Daniel Everett and Kim Sterelny suggest that this forced indoor downtime was one of the most powerful catalysts for human cognitive evolution. When you are trapped together by the rain, you are forced to interact. You have to communicate, negotiate, and diffuse social friction. To pass the hours, you sit around the hearth and talk. This forced social proximity is likely where human language became incredibly complex and nuanced. It is also where the very first oral storytelling was born. Around the flickering light of the fire, the elders of the tribe would weave elaborate narratives, mythologies that were actually survival guides disguised as stories. They would tell tales of legendary hunts, of ancient droughts, and of how to find water in a distant valley. Through these stories, crucial survival knowledge was passed down to the younger generation, turning a boring, rainy afternoon into a school for human survival. This is also why we find breathtaking art deep in the dark, silent recesses of caves like Lascaux, Chauvet, and Altamira. These paintings were almost never made near the bright, drafty entrance of the cave. Instead, artists crawled hundreds of feet into the pitch-black interior, far from the reach of the wind and rain. In the quiet, stable atmosphere of the deep cave, lit only by the flickering glow of stone lamps burning animal fat, these chambers became prehistoric theaters. Here, the tribe would gather to paint, sing, and perform rituals, keeping their minds occupied and their spirits united while the storm raged outside. When you weren't talking or painting, you were working. Rainy days were the ultimate manufacturing sessions of the Stone Age. You would take rough pieces of silkrete or flint and place them carefully near the embers of the fire. By heat-treating the stone, you altered its molecular structure, making it much easier to flake. You would spend hours patiently pressure-flaking the edges, transforming brittle rock into razor-sharp spear points, scrapers, and knives, preparing your arsenal for the moment the skies finally cleared. And then, there was sleep. Modern sleep research by scientists like Jerome Siegel has revealed that hunter-gatherers do not sleep in the rigid, continuous 8-hour blocks we insist on today. During extended periods of rain, when hunting and gathering are completely impossible, your body naturally seeks to conserve its resources. Every movement burns precious calories, and when food is scarce, burning calories is a waste. So, you sleep. You sleep to lower your metabolic rate. But this sleep is beautifully segmented. You sleep for a few hours, then wake up in the pitch-black middle of the night. The tribe wakes up with you. You sit together in the warm shadow of the embers, whispering quietly, feeding the fire, and engaging in social grooming, gently picking dirt and parasites from each other's hair. This simple physical act releases a flood of oxytocin and endorphins in your brain, instantly lowering your stress levels, reducing anxiety, and weaving the social fabric of the tribe tighter and tighter. After a few hours of quiet connection, you drift back into a second sleep, secure in the knowledge that you are not alone. Eventually, the clouds break, the rain stops, and the warm sun begins to bake the steaming earth. The rain triggers an explosion of life outside, plants sprout, and animals emerge from their own shelters to drink and feed, making them vulnerable and easy to track. Your band steps out of the cave, dry, warm, and highly prepared, holding the sharp new tools you crafted during the downpour. You survived the week-long storm not because you were stronger than the elements, but because you were smarter. You engineered your air, chemically treated your beds, channeled your anxiety into breathtaking art, and used the forced isolation to build deeper, stronger connections with the people around you. So, the next time you hear the rain drumming against your window, and you feel that sudden, heavy desire to cancel your plans, wrap yourself in a blanket, and just stay inside with the people you love. Do not feel guilty. You are not being lazy. You are simply listening to a 50,000-year-old biological program running deep inside your brain. It is the quiet, enduring voice of your ancestors whispering to you across the millennia. Stay inside. Keep warm. Protect the fire.